Okay, have you ever found yourself, or maybe your poor dog or cat, just scratching like crazy after being outside?
Okay.
Or maybe you get those mysterious itchy bites on your ankles just from walking in the yard.
Happens all the time. It's super
It
frustrating.
really is. And it often points to, well, a really common but kind of misunderstood problem. I'm Mark Buzz, and with me is Anna Bugs.
And hey, we're really glad you're joining us for this deep dive. If you like getting into the nitty-gritty of stuff like this, please remember to follow and like us wherever you get your podcasts.
Definitely. Today, we are jumping headfirst into understanding and, more importantly, figuring out how to conquer flea infestations, specifically those stubborn ones that seem to start right there in your own yard.
Hmm.
Our mission today is to unpack the key strategies and some surprising insights from a really helpful source we looked at. Flea infestations in your yard. Here's how to take control from simple pest management.
Yeah, and what's really interesting in that source is how it points out that, especially in warmer places, fleas aren't just a summer thing. They can actually thrive pretty much year-round,
Right.
which means, a few pests can suddenly become a massive problem if you're not proactive about it.
Hmm.
This deep dive should really arm you with what you need to tackle them effectively, right where they start.
I'm definitely curious about what the source said was the very first thing to grasp, the foundation. We usually think fleas, we think pets, right?
Totally.
But this source kind of flips that idea. Where do these infestations really begin? What did you find there?
Well, the first thing that really jumps out in this big mental shift is this.
Mm.
The source clearly states, a flea problem usually starts in your yard where most of the flea eggs, larvae, and pupa are hiding.
Oh,
And it kind of changes everything, doesn't it?
it really does, because you see one flea hopping on your dog and you think, okay, that's the problem.
Exactly.
But if the source is right, that's like barely anything, just the tip of the iceberg.
Precisely. And what's fascinating, like mind-blowing really, is that roughly 95% of the entire flea population isn't the adults you actually see hopping around.
95.
Yeah. The huge majority are those hidden stages. The tiny eggs, the little larvae, and the pupa tucked away in cocoons. And they're lurking in places you might not even think about. Shady, damp soil, thick grass, under the deck, in crawl spaces.
Okay.
So think about it like this. If you're only going after the adult fleas you see, you're basically trying to empty a bathtub with a teaspoon while the faucet's still running full blast.
Huh. Okay, so knowing that, how does that shift our strategy compared to what most people probably do first, like run out and get a flea collar?
It's fundamental. If you're just focusing on the adults, maybe with pet treatments or, vacuuming inside,
Yeah.
you're completely missing the source of the next wave.
Right, the reinforcement.
Exactly. So an effective plan has to hit those hidden stages too. You've got to break the whole life cycle to really stop it. It's about attacking the root cause, not just the symptoms jumping around.
That makes total sense. So, okay, the yard is ground zero. How do we start fighting back right there, outside the house? I know the source had some surprisingly simple but really effective tips for that.
It did. The next really key point is that regular mowing and cleanup help dry out flea habitats and make it harder for them to survive and spread. Sounds almost too basic, right?
Yeah, like just mowing the lawn.
But it's huge. Fleas absolutely need moisture and shade to survive. So overgrown grass, piles of leaves, damp, cluttered areas that's like a five-star resort for them, it gives them that perfect, humid, protected spot to just multiply unseen.
So simple yard work isn't just for looks, it's actually making the yard hostile territory for fleas.
Exactly right. We're talking regular mowing,
Yeah.
yeah, but also really getting in there, raking up leaves, clearing out brush piles, cleaning around the doghouse or kennel, under the deck, anywhere damp and shady.
Okay.
These little actions make a big difference because they dry out those spots where the eggs and larvae hang out. You're literally changing their environment to make it unlivable.
Okay, so basic tidiness is step one. What about more targeted tactics for the yard itself? Beyond just cleaning up, I remember reading about some interesting natural options and DIY stuff.
Yeah, there's some good ones. One really great eco-friendly method the source mentions is using beneficial nematodes. Have you heard of these?
Vaguely. They're like microscopic worms or something.
Exactly. Tiny little worm-like organisms you add to your soil. It's basically like unleashing a tiny army in your yard.
Okay.
They actively hunt down and kill flea larvae right there in the soil before they even get a chance to turn into biting adults. You just spray them on with a hose end sprayer, focusing on shady spots, pet lounging areas. It's a really powerful natural approach.
Wow, natural predators. That's cool. And for something maybe a bit simpler for the adults who do see, the source mentions soapy water traps. That sounds like a classic easy trick.
It's a great little helper tactic, yeah. You just take a shallow dish, put in some water and a squirt of dish soap, and stick it under a lamp at night near where you think the fleas are bad.
Yeah.
Well, fleas are drawn to the light and warmth. They jump in, and the soap breaks the water's surface tension. So boom, they can't get out. They drown.
Simple, but effective for trapping some adults.
Right. It's definitely not going to solve the whole problem on its own, but it helps knock down the adult numbers quickly, and it kind of shows you where the hot spots are.
Makes sense. And then for something with maybe a bit more staying power, the source talked about yard-safe flea treatments with IGRs, insect growth regulators. How do those work?
Ah, yes. IGRs are really smart because they target the flea life cycle itself, not just the adults.
Okay, how?
So unlike some sprays that just kill the adult fleas they hit, IGRs are playing the long game. They basically mess with the flea's development. They stop the larva from turning into pupa, and they stop the pupa from hatching into biting adults.
Ah, so it breaks the chain.
Exactly. It prevents the next generation from even showing up.
Yeah.
That makes them a really powerful tool for longer-lasting control.
That's a really important distinction, stopping future fleas.
Okay, and what about for people who prefer natural or maybe for specific dry spots? Diatomaceous earth came up too, the food-grade kind. How does that stuff work?
Right, DE. It's basically a mechanical killer, not a chemical one. It's a superfine powder made from fossilized algae.
Okay.
And when fleas crawl through it, the microscopic sharp edges scratch their waxy outer layer, and they basically just dehydrate and die.
Ouch. So you just sprinkle it around?
Yeah, in dry, sunny areas where you see activity, like pet resting spots or along foundations. But key point, you have to reapply it if it gets wet, like after rain or watering, because moisture makes it useless.
Gotcha.
Oh, and always wear a mask when you're spreading it. That dust is really fine.
Good tip. Okay, so we've got the yard under attack from multiple angles. But fleas are sneaky, right? They don't just stay politely outside.
Oh, absolutely not.
They inevitably find a way inside, usually by hitching a ride on our pets. That's their main taxi service, yeah. Which brings up a really critical point. How do you protect your pets and your home at the same time? All that hard work in the yard can be undone pretty quickly if your dog keeps bringing new fleas inside.
Absolutely. The source really stressed having a consistent flea preventative plan for your pets. You know, the topical treatments, flea collars, maybe those oral meds.
The standard stuff.
And definitely talk to your vet, right? Especially during peak season to figure out what's best for your specific animal. And if your pet already has fleas, immediate action, like a good flea shampoo and using a flea comb, helps get rid of the adults and eggs right now.
Here's something people often miss, connecting the pet to the house. Wash their bedding regularly.
Good point.
Seriously, fleas lay eggs there. That cozy bed can become a flea nursery right inside your home. So washing it, or even replacing it sometimes, is crucial for stopping that indoor cycle too.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, thinking about things coming into the yard, the source also mentioned wildlife. That was kind of surprising. It's not just about our pets bringing fleas in.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
If you think about the whole yard ecosystem, critters like raccoons, squirrels, stray cats, even deer, sometimes are often carrying fleas. Lots of them.
Really? Like the same fleas that bite our pets?
Often, yeah. Cat fleas, dog fleas, they're not too picky. And these animals rest under your deck, maybe near the trash cans, under sheds.
And they just drop off fleas.
Exactly. They introduce new fleas into the environment, constantly kind of reseeding the population you're trying so hard to eliminate.
Man, that's tough. So how do you stop that? Fencing, I guess.
Yeah, things like fencing can help. Also sealing off crawl spaces so they can't get under the house or shed. Even using natural repellents like cedar chips around fences or garden beds can make the area less attractive to them and the fleas.
Okay, so basically make your yard less welcoming to wildlife visitors.
Precisely. It reduces the chances of them dropping off those unwanted hitchhikers. It's a piece of the puzzle people often forget.
Okay, so let's say you've done, like, everything. You've mowed, raked, used nematodes, maybe some IGRs. You're treating your pet religiously. You've blocked off the deck. And you still have fleas. What then? When do you throw in the towel and call the pros?
That's a really fair question. And the source is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Sometimes, even with the best DIY efforts, an infestation is just too widespread or too dug in.
Right.
And that's when professional help is the next logical step. Pest management services have tools and treatments that are generally stronger or more targeted than what you can buy yourself.
So what do they do differently? How do they handle a really bad case?
Well, they often use a combination approach, maybe more potent, targeted sprays. Definitely those IGRs we talked about. Sometimes even professional-grade foggers for both the lawn and inside the house.
Foggers, okay.
But here's a really key thing professionals often do that the source highlighted: a follow-up treatment, usually about 2 weeks later.
Why is that follow-up so important?
Because of the flea pupa. They spin these really tough cocoons that can protect them from initial treatments for days, weeks, sometimes even longer. They can just wait it out.
Ah, so they hatch after the first treatment wears off.
Exactly. That follow-up service is designed to zap any newly hatched fleas before they can restart the whole cycle. It's crucial for really breaking it for good.
That follow-up really does sound like it could be the difference maker, ensuring the cycle is truly broken, not just interrupted.
It often is. Plus, professionals know where to look. They'll treat baseboards, carpets, furniture indoors, as well as doing a thorough job on the lawn. They hit all those potential hiding spots, offering a much more comprehensive solution than most homeowners can manage alone. They're trained to find those deep sources.
Wow. Okay, so this whole deep dive really hammers home that fleas are, well, they're survivors, aren't they?
Oh yeah, resilient little things.
But controlling them effectively really comes down to understanding that whole life cycle, hitting all the stages, not just the adults we see, and starting the fight right there in the yard.
Absolutely. It's that mix of things. Keeping the yard maintained, using those natural methods like nematodes, targeted treatments like IGRs, definitely protecting your pets, and not forgetting about the wildlife factor.
It really reinforces that idea that knowledge is power, especially with pests. Just knowing that 95% of the problem is hidden, that changes how you approach everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Suddenly, mowing the lawn isn't just mowing the lawn, it's strategic pest control.
Yeah.
Applying treatments makes more sense when you know what stage you're targeting. It shifts you from just reacting to the bites to proactively managing the source.
So for you, our listener, here's a final thought to mull over. We just learned how much of the flea problem is hidden, totally out of sight. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other common pests around your house or yard might you be underestimating? Simply because you're only seeing the tiny, visible tip of their infestation iceberg. What other hidden battlefields might be right under your nose, just waiting for their own deep dive? Something to think about next time you're out in the yard.